love, sex, intimacy. We all want it. But to get it sometimes feels like going through a minefield of bad stories. Sometimes they're funny, more often they're exciting, and sometimes they just fuck you up. But almost always, you'll find a little piece of yourself in them. So let me take you on a ride through Berlin dating life. Hi!
Morgen. Christina?
Yeah. Nevada.
So this part goes inside of your vagina, and this part goes on top of the clit.
Yeah, all the guys you've been around now are terrible.
I ditched all my lovers.
Bitch. So choose.
This one.
Just because you fell in love, maybe, and sauna. Crazy. Ow! Ow! I mean, fuck this guy, really.
Ooh, hottie!
Gleis 11, Einfahrt S41, Drittbahn, Vorsicht bei der Einfahrt.
Ostkreuz. If you're into dancing and you're in Berlin, you won't get around this place. From here, a handful of clubs are in reach. It's the train station of the ravers, if you will. When it's dark, you'll find people with clean clothes on the way to the clubs. When it's bright, you'll find a more smelly version of them taking their walk of shame back to the next S-Bahn. In my story, it's Berlin prime time, Sunday evening. Finally, my friend said when I slammed the taxi door. She'd been waiting for me. A little earlier, I was still sitting in a bar with a guy that had the most boring stories and the most boring way to tell them. So when she texted me to go dancing, I jumped on the chance and into an Uber. Let's just go to about blank, she said. There's a sex-positive party on tonight, but it will be fine. She knew I was not gonna jump in the air hearing this. Actually, I usually find sex-positive parties a bit of a turn-off. For me, sex being treated as something so normal, something you're welcome to do wherever you want, takes away the excitement. But hey, good for you if you enjoy it. Go for it. I didn't actually want to go for it, but it was raining and cold, so we walked up to the club. You know the party that's on tonight? The bouncer asked. He wasn't scary like the ones in Berghain sometimes. He was wearing jeans, a cap, a large keyring on his pants. He seemed chill. My friend knew all about the party. She had time to check it out while she waited in the cold. Okay, so let me explain you the setup of the club. When you go to your right, there's the Flinter dark room, and to your left, you'll find the normal dark rooms. I had to stop my eyes from rolling. That really didn't sound like my vibe. But it was cold, and we really wanted to be inside, so... One more thing, the bouncer said. It's not a smoking party, so if you want to smoke, outside in the garden, please. Somebody had recently told me about not being able to smoke in a club. I really thought it was a joke. In my eyes, it's like a temple of freedom. And you're not being allowed to use that freedom? That was too much for me. I couldn't hold it back anymore. Out of my mouth came a loud, decisive Austrian, nah. The bouncer looked at me almost shocked. It probably doesn't happen that often that someone rejects him and his club. But he had humor. He started laughing. My friend wasn't as amused. She was more or less annoyed. 30 minutes in the cold and still no heat inside. Okay, then let's go to Sisyphus. We walked back to Ostkreuz to find shelter from this November drizzle. Under the tall concrete bridge, a scenery grey in grey. someone approached us from the side. "Hey, you look like you're going dancing. Do you know where there is something on tonight?" He was tall, his clothes baggy, his blonde hair perfectly messy, and his blue eyes piercing. He had been looking at my friend the whole time while he was speaking, but at his last words, his eyes hit mine. I was struck. In the midst of all this grey around me, I felt something really warm. A connection? When I returned from my daydream, the conversation had continued to a point where my friend was even more agitated. Mr. Blue Eyes had told her that Sisyphus was closed. She had to cancel the Uber. And just like that, 30 minutes of November rain became 45. I was a natural-born mediator, and I guess I crave harmony, so let's just go to Renate, I said out of nowhere. After we had made sure not to walk into another sex-positive party, we were on our way there. It was about a 5-minute walk in which I found out quite a lot about Mr. Blue Eyes. His name sounded interesting. I'll call him Colin here. He was chatty, a sound engineer into music and dancing. He would also record sound on film sets. If I would put out a job advert for the kind of person I would like to bond with, this could be part of the description. If you're thinking the old school box system, it all sounded like potential Spocks. There was no queue at Renate. Colin and I walked up next to each other when we got to the bouncer. And tell me what you want, but standing there is always a moment of judgment. Will they love you? Will they hate you? You don't know on what grounds, but you're being judged. But you know, nothing's better than a moment of judgment when you're feeling amazing. So I felt just like that next to Colin. I still have the sticker on my phone from that night. The party was called Rebellion der Träume, a dreamer's rebellion. For me, that set the theme. Being in Renate always wakes memories for me. I spent so many hours there. All those windowless rooms, some small, some big, some with like wooden built furniture and dim red lights, others with around 50 people dancing and a DJ playing music. This place is an old German apartment building. We entered, I guess, the downstairs living room. There's the wardrobe. Colin had a big bag with him. It looked like he was crashing in people's houses. He's just moving to Berlin, he told us. And he was going to sign his new contract for this flat tomorrow. Guess where it was? It still is, I suppose. Well, right there in Neukölln. #Kiezlove. I've been a Neukölln bitch for a while now. In the middle of this conversation, I realized that finally my friend was smiling again. She seemed like in the best mood. There's something about suffering. Once you get over it, you feel amazing. So 45 minutes of November rain ending in this mood high, it's not a bad deal. I also made a deal a little later. I traded my phone number for his phone number, I wanted to say, but actually that never happened. I was typing in his notes. Oh, so you put your phone number? Maybe also give me your Instagram. I mean, sure, more is more, just like my fashion concept. He'd add me, he said, and handed over his big bag to the wardrobe. My friend and Colin had never been to Renate before, so I let them through. We got a drink and went to one of the separators, let me call them. Maybe it used to be a bedroom. In any case, it was cozy. We sat down underneath what could have been a high bed built into the room. There were dim lights all over. "Do you want an eighth of a pill?" I asked Colin. And saying this, I knew a yes would mean a partner to dream throughout the night. And I was lucky. A low dose is perfect for a night where you have to work in the next morning. I had to be in the office at 10, but before that, I wanted to dance. I played it cool all this time. We went around in our group of 3, we danced on all the different floors, until we finally returned to the separé. This time we went to the second level, a more private, high bed space with sofas. I wanted to roll a joint. The ecstasy only showed the mild effect, and weed is my guilty pleasure. We were chatting about Berlin, music, the clubs. Nothing in his or my behavior had yet revealed a romantic interest. No touching, no flirting. We were all playing it friendly. But this was about to change. A group of people joined us on the gallery. We had to shuffle around to make some space on the sofas. And just like that, Colin came closer. Finally, we were in a situation for a one-to-one conversation. And there was so much to talk about. Thank you, ecstasy. Eventually, we reached a question I already wanted to ask for a while. How old are you actually? A question I should have asked before I put him in my potentials box, maybe? Anyways, so guess. He let me guess too. I actually hate that. You can only get it wrong, yet I do it myself all the time. 29 maybe? He laughed. I got a bit nervous, like, was I 10 years off? Finally he got it out. 25, he said. In my head, the BILF signs came on. BILF, not MILF. Yes, you heard me right. I'm not a mom, and there's no room for discrimination here. So I can be a bitch you like to fuck. Well, how old do you think I am? I replied. I enjoyed his blue eyes going over every little detail of my face. 26 maybe? Club lights, they're dim. I'm the golden number, 33. No one got put off by the age question. But also, how could we have? We were high. And to be honest, at this point in time, I was too stoned to even calculate the age difference properly. Wow, you look so young, he said. Yes, Botox bitches. Damn, it really works. God knows who kissed who. All I know is a little later I was sitting on his lap. His kisses were as playful as mine. And even though I hate the taste of beer, which he'd been drinking, I wanted to melt into the taste of his mouth. It was all so sexy. He grabbed my ass and let it drop slightly ever so often, only to grab it hard again. I was feeling his muscles on his upper arms, my booty all out for him. So here I was, trying to get over the sex positive vibe all night, yet feeling more sex positive than ever. If I had one wish at this point in time, it would have been a door to the rest of the club that we could close. I sat back down next to Colin. The crowd had completely exchanged. My friend was gone, and so was the Rastafarian guy next to her. I had handed him over the joint just before Colin and I started kissing. Sharing is caring. I figured he would return the favor to my friend. Is your flat around the corner? Colin asked. Kind of. It's about 10 minutes taxi ride. I was ready to go. Sex was more interesting than the club now. I had danced here so many times already. And my current hormone high, though, had only seen one really bad session. And I never like to waste my hormones. Colin's situation, though, was kind of the opposite. It was his first time in a club, and his hormone high comes daily, in the morning. We stayed a little longer. On the way to look for my friend, we met the Rastafarian guy. He had it all under control. I'm gonna bring you to your friend. We followed him through the club. She was in the back of the dance floor upstairs. A full body tattooed guy next to her. I wasn't surprised that she was being chatted up. But the tattooed guy seemed to be surprised to be caught doing it. I know she has a boyfriend, he told me, even before I could say hello to him. By saying that, in my head he immediately added, but everybody can see I don't care. But hey, as if I was the police here. My friend and I exchanged a few words and we walked forward to dance. There's no love in the jungle, the song went. It was in my liked music. I couldn't help but sing along and at the same time think, well, actually, there might be some love in my current jungle. The pill had finally kicked in. Me and Colin were rubbing against each other in line with the beat. I loved dancing by myself, but right now, feeling him behind me was all I wanted. His steps were a basic left and right. He wouldn't join in on my variations. Just like a DJ dances, I thought. He had told me that he's producing, and I had my fair share of Berlin musicians. It didn't take long until we decided to leave. An Uber later, we were at my flat. He complimented my interior. It didn't surprise me. If you like Renate, you'll like it in my flat. It's very circusy and I have a high bed too. It's my hideaway. Or it's also been called my brothel before. I guess because of the big light that hangs there, shining some red onto the sheets. It resembles an X. But just to say, I made it way before Elon fucking Musk took over Twitter. Anyways, Colin, the X, and me. It was also romantic, so intense. It seemed difficult to move it to a more promiscuous vibe. Do you know this feeling? When you're actually feeling something and you're excited, almost a bit shy? Like you're feeling like a 15-year-old who doesn't know what to do. Eventually a song came on that had the lyrics, "Just do it." "Just do it," he repeated and smiled at me. Well, he seemed to take the chance. We started having sex, and I was surprised about how little the number 25 meant in this context. He was dominant and attentive. We had sex for many more hours and eventually fell asleep. One time 8 shows is in the morning after partying. While Colin got up around 8 and went for a cold shower, I crawled out of bed shortly before 10 and called in to say that I'll be staying in home office. "Will you be back?" I asked Colin, half asleep. Asking this question, I could feel my anxiety kicking in. But only halfway, because he would be back in the evening, he said. I don't know why, but it always makes me feel nervous to part ways with lovers. It feels like when we meet again, it might not be as it was before, or we actually might never see each other again. There's a term for it, I found out. Separation anxiety. Don't ask me how to get rid of it, I have no idea. But this Monday, I was dealing with it quite well. It was a surprisingly successful working day. Yes, take it. I was in home office and actually worked. That's already a small success. Us bitches, we never credit ourselves enough. So applause for everyone that actually works in home office. You're such a boss bitch. Around the time I finished work, I got a notification on my Instagram. Colin hadn't even left his number. Technically, he could disappear forever, and I'll never be able to contact him again. I sort of knew that, and I figured he would have known that too. So Colin wants to connect. It's so GenZ. No one calls you anymore. It's Instagram all the way. A little weird for me, I have to say. But it felt like another obstacle taken. He already had time to check out my profile, and he's not put off. Not that my Instagram is super weird, but maybe some of my posts would not be the taste of everybody. Let's just say that. Colin didn't seem to mind. He sent me a message saying he was running late. I hadn't really listened to what actually his mission was on that day. I knew he was doing some audio stuff, so in my head he was sitting in an audio edit, optimizing sounds for some kind of TV show or something. I know this kind of environment. I'm spending a lot of time in the edit, and I know there's no one that works 24-hour shifts there. Everybody leaves latest by 8, maybe 9. So it got 10 and he didn't show up. It got 11 and no one was ringing my bell. Around 12, he sent the text. I'm on my way now, sorry. It was 1 a.m. and I found myself sitting on the sofa, staring at the curtain. What the fuck am I doing with my life? A mixture of calm down and I guess disappointment had set in. I felt so stupid. Of course he was not gonna come back. He just wanted to get rid of me and not say it out loud. It had all just been the fucking pill. I remembered that in the night before, he asked me at what point in time I had decided that I wanted more from him. Immediately when I saw you, I said. He, though, had only decided on the dance floor. Cheers to my moves, or cheers to the ecstasy. That's what I was now thinking. All of a sudden, my bell rang. He walked in with his bag over the shoulder. There was an explanation. He was helping to build some kind of film set and the lights took forever. I immediately understood. I was back on my cloud. We got naked, enjoyed each other, and eventually fell asleep cuddled up on my high bed. When you close the curtains up there, you're in a windowless room. Just like in Renate. Reality shut out. Berlin style. The next morning, I had to get up early. I took a shower, got ready, and went up to the bed to say goodbye to Colin. I was gonna leave him a key and he could sleep a little longer. I trust so easily. When are you coming back? He asked me. Turns out we have a time problem. He had a train booked back to his hometown around 5 p.m. Oh, he was gonna get his stuff and bring it to his new flat in Berlin, I thought. But there was something else he hadn't told me. A big B got in the way. Brazil. He was gonna spend the next month in Brazil. Of course. What else? Great. My separation anxiety kicked in full speed. I was not gonna see him for a month. Or never again. He's gonna leave me. I'm gonna be alone again. I still don't know where all of these thoughts come from. I only know I have them and I deal with them. My way of dealing with Colin's Brazil trip was to use all the time that was left. I called in for another day of home office. We were no clothes for all afternoon. It was a perfect Berlin Tuesday. The weekend blues is best treated with sex, if you ask me. And with Colin, it just seemed to get better and better. He was gaining more confidence with every time, and actually, in the end, he had a bit too much of it. I was lying on my back, he was holding me down so hard, his underarms on my chest with all his weight. I felt something cracking. Almost as if he had broken some invisible walls around me. But as I later found out, it wasn't just that. My rib had fractured. Ouch. But high on all this intimacy, I didn't care about the pain that slowly started to creep in with every breath. We were just loved up. It was about 5:30 when he got his stuff and was gonna head out to the train. It was an awkward moment for the both of us. I didn't know what to say, like goodbye or I love you or will you come back to me again? It was all so intense. I was actually relieved when he was out the door. A little later he texted me. I took so many nice memories with me, but I think I left something stupid with you. Is my wallet still there? I found it underneath the sofa a little later. It was a generic black leather wallet with not so much inside. To be honest, it looked like a replacement piece, as if he had lost the one before not so long ago. Inside was only some essentials. His bank card and his ID. I went to check the photo. He's such a handsome guy. And a young one, I thought all of a sudden. 1999? Wait, so he was actually 24? He had told me 25 all this time, I'm sure. But I kind of immediately understood. I had spent almost all my 20s wanting to be older than I was. I remember adding on 1 year here and there, sometimes just not to fall into the young category in the eyes of people in their 30s. When I packed his wallet into the envelope to send it to him so he would have it for Brazil, I wrote on a postcard, age is just a number, a feeling is a feeling. I could only think of him. Like the look in his eyes. He seemed so strong to me. In his appearance. But also in his views. He wasn't a pushover. He would stand strong for what he believed. And he would stand strong like that for me too. All these thoughts of what he was and what he wasn't, they're interesting ones to reflect on. Sometimes I'm not really sure how much they have to do with Colin himself. It's probably more what I imagine someone on my side to be like. And here's a further thought. Often with unhappy love stories, the final lesson is to find all of these qualities that you loved so much in someone else within yourself. Here I am having a busy social life, being able to make some music, and when am I gonna learn to stand strong on my own side? Well, it wasn't the moment yet. So he was gone, and I was high on love. Or let me say this with a question mark. I guess I was high on the possibility of love. Of having found someone that cares and that you want to care. Just that became the question around a week later. We texted a bit here and there on Instagram. I was posting stories at the time where I wasn't sure how he would react. Showing some skin, being a bit provocative, just how I like it sometimes. I wanted him to see who I was, but at the same time, I kind of feared his judgment. All these insecurities. Like I was that 15-year-old girl again. And you know what's terrible for insecurities? Silence. He gave me a lot of that. From message to message, it would always take longer for him to reply. First, it was 1 day. Then, it was 2 days when he didn't text back. In the end, not even 3 days were a limit. And I would go through the same cycle over and over again. When a text from him arrives, I would get a rush. I mean, dopamine, I guess. Oh, he texted me, he thought of me, he might have even said something nice to me. Opening his message was like a high. It was mostly videos of him in some kind of Brazil surrounding, him looking at the camera and smiling at me with his big blue eyes. It always got me. But the high never lasted long. I would reply almost immediately when I saw it. It's my communication style. I like it direct. But nothing ever came back directly. It was about 24 hours of loved up thoughts after each nice text. But from day 2 onwards, all these thoughts started to get question marks. Like, probably this was all just in my head. This might just be a random guy I got high with in a club and who I took home afterwards. And I'm just a random girl from Ostkreuz. There's something about feeling special. When you're in a relationship, there is someone to whom you're special. You are the closest to your partner. And they are the closest to you. It's a no one like you feeling. That's so hard to find within yourself every morning. Especially when all of a sudden you feel like a random girl from Ostkreuz. That's how I felt all the way until the next dopamine rush, because usually after 3 days he would text back. And I just had to get over thinking about him all this time. Which, to be honest, was a bit difficult because with every breath I could feel my rib was still fractured. And I knew where that came from. At some point I told him that I didn't enjoy conversations like that. Maybe we can chat on the phone rather than texting. He was supposed to call one evening when he texted me around 1 a.m. Hey, do you have time now? Well, I was sleeping, and he could have known. But another roller coaster from special girl to random girl later, we had a new phone date set up. And this one he wasn't gonna miss. I was excited. I was finally gonna talk to him again, and it was just over a week until he would be back in Berlin. But that night around 1 a.m., I found myself on the sofa staring at the curtains again. And again, what the fuck am I doing with my life? I'm spending all evening waiting for a phone call of a guy that I've gotten to know 3 weeks ago and then saw for like 2 days. Somebody that I don't actually know, but I still have all these feelings for. Yeah, when you kind of look at the facts, it seems crazy. And I guess when you fall in love, you are crazy. Well, right now, the only crazy I felt was crazy disappointment. He never called, and he never texted. I decided then and there, I need to block him. No more thoughts on him, no more energy wasted. No more dreaming fairy tales. So here's Generation Y versus Generation Z. While I blocked him, he ghosted me. And neither of us knew what the other one had done until Christmas. You know this Christmas spirit? You're with your family, you're 30 plus and single. Everyone who you could possibly take to Christmas next year will be on your mind. And it's also this whole wrap-up time. The year is coming to an end, you reflect on what happened. Colin and my story seemed unfinished. There was never any confrontation. In my eyes, an error in the dramatic structure of our story. I texted him. I just looked through my favorite pictures of 2023. You're also in there. I sent him a picture of him in my bed. Just where I wanted him again. I didn't actually want to ghost you, he said in his voice note. Sure, I also didn't actually want to block you, I thought. It wasn't an exchange of messages that led to me falling back in love again and forgetting about how everything had happened. But we opened a door. He gave me some hints about what had happened from his side. He didn't like it that I accused him of not having enough interest when he never called. But he said he just followed his nature, which was to avoid confrontation and just not to say anything anymore. It was almost as if he had given me the description of what an avoidant relationship pattern is like. Have you heard of these archetypes? Avoidant and anxious? I'm the anxious, obviously. #separation anxiety. I didn't say much back to his voice note. I was sick of communicating on the phone. I wanted to see him. I wanted to see how I would feel next to him. If I would still have this warm feeling, or if that would have gone by now. It was January when I texted him. Wanna come over for a joint tomorrow? We arranged to meet Tuesday night. It was about an hour before we were supposed to meet, and he cancelled. I have to go for a drink with some people from a booking agency. I can maybe come later. How long are you gonna be awake? I had no interest in waiting for him all night once again. Let's try tomorrow, I said. It sounded fishy from the beginning, but also what he said could be true. I decided to suspend my judgment. So Thursday it was. I had a bottle of Cremant in the fridge, home office the day after, and all red lights were lit in my flat. It was 8 o'clock. And no one rang the door. What the fuck? What had happened? He just left me waiting here without saying a word, nor turning up. I felt like shit. I knew I had to find an end to this. I mean, I could go for another round of excuses and dream a little more and imagine what it could be with him. But also, it would never be in reality. In reality, I would always be sitting here doubting myself. And once I realized that that's all I was gonna get, it seemed less appealing. I texted him around 10. You're just blocking my time. Fuck off. It didn't matter that in his voice message 3 days later he told me that he had an episode where he couldn't make it out of the house, he couldn't open his Instagram, he couldn't do anything. I was done with this story. I didn't want any more of it. No more disappointment. It also made it a bit easier to let go of Colin when I met an old lover from 2019 again. And that also turned out to be a story of itself. I'll tell you in my next episode.